Wait. I'm
Welcome
done.
back to Ash's ASMR. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Remind podcast. My name's David Masterton, and I'm joined by Dr. Ashleigh Morland, and we're probably into the last of a series of what we've dived into, as in universal laws. It did start off as a listener recommendation or something that they've wanted us to talk about. So here we are deep diving. So if you have something you'd like us to talk about, let us know in the comments below. Tell us what you like to hear. Tell us what you don't like to hear. It's all the same. Would love the engagement. So Ash, we're on the home straight, final two. I believe you said off air this is your favourite two.
These are faves for me. First one's Law of Relativity, and Law of Relativity is about relating to things. So nothing is good or bad until it's compared to something else, essentially.
Ooh.
So from a universal perspective, it is what it is because it is, and it's only our thinking that makes it good or bad. And our thinking is driven by our judgments, by our biases, our morals, our values, the things that we lay over the top, like the lenses. So this is a fave for me because it's something that my kids actually brought out in my healing journey, because anyone who has been a kid, has a kid, knows that kids compare everything. No, they've got more than me. No, their bowl's bigger. Oh, no, I want to, all this stuff. So where this came up was I got so sick of my kids doing this comparison thing that I was getting really triggered at their lack of being grateful. And I would see it and I'd be like, just be grateful for what you've got. You don't have to compare to each other all the time, because that's taking a positive experience that would feel so like fulfilling and have that experience of love and gratitude in their body to now becoming a resentful, frustrated, negative experience.
Yeah.
And so I was getting really triggered by it. And that's what led me to this idea of comparison and teaching my kids about it. So what I actually did is I took everything away and I said, if this is all you had, and you did, it was like a bowl of ice cream. If that's what you had and there was nothing else to compare it to, how would you feel about what you have? And they were like, I would feel grateful. I'd feel really lucky. I would be excited. I would feel like all these things. And I said, isn't that powerful? Because you know how they say comparison is, thief
of joy.
The thief of joy. Yes, thank you. It just fell out of my brain. Comparison's the thief of joy. And I was making this point to my kids going, now watch what happens. And I got the other bowl and I sat it next to it. And I said, if this is the exact same bowl that you had before, but now you're comparing it to this one, how do you feel? And they were like, I feel angry because that one's got more, and I feel this and I feel that. And I said, the only thing that changed is comparison to something else. And the comparison to something else is what made it bad, not anything else. And so when we apply this to life, like mental health, oh my gosh, our bad day could just be a bad day. But when we're comparing our bad day next to someone else's highlight reel, all of a sudden our bad day feels so much worse. I see it in kids all the time. A kid who might be struggling to read might feel behind because they're comparing to all the other kids who can read really easily. But if you zoomed out and actually saw their strengths in emotional intelligence, or their strengths in creativity, or their strengths in other areas, they're so gifted, but they're going to grow up thinking that they're dumb, or thinking that because of that comparison to others. So this is really, really big. I think if people just understood this law and were able to be more mindful of where comparison is happening in their own life, things would drastically shift.
And I think when we're exploring the theme of relativity, or this law of relativity, it requires you to go through the comparison. to explore it. Because if it just was, there'd be no question about it. There would be no comparison. But because we have this reality in which we need to explore the theme on a deeper level, or the shadow aspects of it, that's why you need to have this comparison. That's why you need to have this, I suppose, polarity, or, because if everyone was the same, if everyone only ate vanilla ice cream and it was only ever dispensed the same amount all the time, there'd be no exploring of this theme. Even though it kind of feels like a little bit, in my mind, without comparison, the law itself, it's hard to explore. I suppose in most of these laws, it's hard to explore. But it's massive because, again, when we come back to some of the previous things we've spoken about, boy, we always compare ourselves on our healing journey. Why can't I be at that point? I don't feel as though I'm doing a good job because they're out there further. They're doing a better job than me. Or
and they've had their I used to see this in Rise and Thrive all the time because, and I would tell people in week 1, your journey is unique to yours. You never know when your breakthrough's coming, but don't let the breakthroughs of other people steal your opportunity for breakthrough, because some people could have breakthrough in week 1 and their whole life transforms, and other people weren't having their breakthrough till week 10. And so honoring your unique experience and being able to sit in the presence of differing experiences without letting those steal yours is so powerful.
Well, it's relative to you, your healing
That's
journey.
right.
It's like, imagine we're all transcending the same mountain.
Yes.
From a slightly different angle. Right? The aim is the same. The direction's the same. Some people might be going through an easy bit while you're going through a brutal bit. You might be going through an easier bit while they're going through a brutal bit.
Yes.
Or it could be that you've front loaded some lessons in this one area that you're going through that other people haven't. And so therefore it feels like you're really behind in this. Or you're looking at someone, and let's just say, we'll talk about the materials. Someone's born into wealth.
Yeah.
Right? And they've got, in your mind, no reason to be upset. No reason to be unhappy. No reason for anything, because if I had all of that, I would be great. I would be Gucci. I would be absolutely fine. Right? And then it's sort of like, but it's relative to that person.
That's right.
Right? The habit, like, they are exploring a different theme that is relevant to them with it, which means they might be exploring the side of which, what happens when you have a boatload of money? It would come with its other issues, and it's other challenges, and it's other fears, and it's other, which is relevant to that person. Where for yourself, yes, in your experience and the theme you're going through, the lack of money right now might be an invitation for you to explore the limiting beliefs around that, which is relevant to your exploration of the theme.
Yes, and it's reminding me of, I was listening to an episode of Joe Rogan, and he's mentioned it in a few episodes, but something made me laugh when it was around the comparison of wealth, because you just used the term, imagine if you had a boatload of money. And I'm like, yeah, but if I had a tinny boatload of money, and I'm looking at that tinny going, whoa, that's so much money. Whoa. I don't need anything ever again.
300 million super cruiser comes past you.
Full of money. So he was saying how wild it is in this comparison. I'm going to get the numbers wrong, so I'll make up numbers for the point of making a point. But I think it was something like he's got a friend who's worth $7 billion or something, and they... just if you just looked at their wealth, you would go, this is stupid levels of wealth. But then that person actually feels poor because they've got a friend worth 70 billion. And so again, in isolation, what you've got is actually insane. But by comparing to others, it steals from your lived experience of that. And that just, I remembered listening to that going, oh my gosh, this is relativity. But it really does come down to everything is what it is because it is. And the other lived experience of this for me, I mean, there's many, but when I've had 2 children, to like pregnancies to full term, and my first pregnancy, I gained like, I think maybe 3 kilos in the first 20 weeks of my pregnancy. I gained almost no weight whatsoever. And I had 11 friends pregnant at the same time. And here I was thinking like I was some kind of, I don't know, pregnancy queen because I wasn't gaining weight and all my friends were stacking on weight.
This looks good on me.
Yes! And all my friends were stacking on weight. And then all of a sudden I hit 20 weeks and I gained 20 kilos in the last 18 weeks of my pregnancy. And that was really interesting. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter 3 years later, I gained 20 kilos in the first 20 weeks of my pregnancy and pretty like maybe 1 or 2 kilos in the last 19 weeks or 20 weeks, whenever she was born. And it's really interesting how the comparison will change how you feel about your own experience. But if we separate it all out, and it's, I love the point that you made about, well, there is variation around. We're always exposed and invited to compare, but it's how we, I guess, the value that we assign or the meaning we assign to that comparison. Because it really annoys me. This is the distortion or the dark side of it, I guess, is when people go, oh, but other people have it so much worse, so I've got nothing to whinge about. But that completely invalidates their lived experience or their emotional truth. They might be dying inside, but because other people have it so much worse, they're supposed to suppress that and just ignore it. Like, that to me is...
Have you ever heard someone use that and not use it as a way, a legitimate question, and someone use that and not use it as a way to either fish for information or try and engage you into victim mode on their behalf?
I guess yes, except not necessarily others have it so much worse, but it could have been so much worse.
Because in my experience, when people have used that, then they're using it as a passive-aggressive way to be able to either, you know, seek validation in their victim mode, or to be able to sort of go, you know, sort of eke out sympathy from them. It's like what they're saying and what they want from you are 2 different things. What they're saying is, and this is just in my experience, when they're saying that, it's like the words make them want to feel as though that they're putting other people ahead of them. However, in that moment, they also feel as they have been so hardly done by.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was just having a little giggle because I was imagining how you would respond to it. And I guess like it sounds like what you're saying, like kind of the girl equivalent of I'm so fat, but they really want someone to say, no, you're not, you're beautiful. But in a different context, like when someone says others have it worse, what would our response to that be? And I guess to your point, if it was searching for that validation of their emotional experience, it would be something along the lines of, oh yeah, but what you've been through has been really hard and you need support, or I don't know, something along those lines. But I'm also wondering, what if we just came into agreement with it and we're like, yeah, you're right, others have it way worse than you, so you should probably just stop whinging.
Yeah, look, I just found this thing on the internet that said that this person's had that. So actually,
yours doesn't actually
why
matter.
the hell are you worrying about anything?
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, I'll give you 10 reasons. Well. Yeah, I'll give you 10 reasons or 10 different examples of why you should be grateful for your position.
Right, exactly. And
like,
actually coming into agreement with that invalidation, I think 99% of people would feel that that was not a loving, kind response, but they're operating from I guess, programming to go, oh, well, others have it way worse, which is suppression, which is bypassing, which is a learned behavior that's been modeled to them at some point in their life to brush off their own experience and as a way to avoid having to confront and sit with the truth of their experience. Because people don't know how to do that generally. And so,
but
yeah, I think
I will say with all of that, there might be some people out there that I haven't experienced yet that do have radical acceptance. Right. So if someone else is talking about their experience and they genuinely see, oh, wow, it's like, oh, you've been through so much, and then and they go, well, it could be worse. You know, other people have it worse. I do believe those people exist. However, in my experience, and in, you know, it must be a theme that I've been asked to poke around, is the fact that, yeah, normally it's used as the opposite. Don't hear what I'm saying. It's more about sort of something else.
Yeah.
Not discounting that the other people do exist. Because if someone came to me and I told them my full story and they started saying, oh my God, you know, I'd say, look, thank you, but I don't want to dwell on it. Thank you for recognizing that, but I'm not telling you for the sake of sympathy. I love the fact that you've recognized it. But I mean, at that point, that's kind of me sort of saying, well, we can kind of move on. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Must be a little bit of a trigger for me, that part. Yeah.
Something to look at. Yeah. And this is what I mean, like with the transmutation of energy thing as well, is multiple things can be true. Like it can be true that one bowl has more ice cream than the other bowl, and we can embrace gratitude for our bowl of ice cream. Do you know what I mean? So with that others have it worse, that can be true. It can be true that someone else's circumstance was significantly worse than your circumstance. And you see this, I mean, bushfires is a really, really simple example, right? A bushfire ravages properties and your neighbor absolutely loses everything and yours has somehow got a little bit of damage. Well, yes, it can be true that someone else had it worse, and it can also be true that the damage to your property still sucks. So it's being
100%.
able to hold both truths at the one time, where there is a level of comparison, but the comparison is not invalidating your truth. It doesn't have to. And I think that that's the key here, is truth is not a competition. Everyone's experience is valid. And so if someone's 1 out of 10 frustrating experience was 1 out of 10 frustrating for them, then honoring their frustration is that's like authentic love. And someone else might have a 10 out of 10 frustrating experience, and that was very frustrating for them. It doesn't mean the 1 out of 10 frustration doesn't matter. But so perspective is helpful, but it's not, it can't come at the expense of your own lived truth or your own healing or your own experience. So
well, if you look at the whole, if you allow relativity to exist, and in this context, let's just, this is my sort of grasp of it. If the universal law of relativity exists in this case, then everyone's experience is relevant to them.
Yes, it's
so you
relative
don't need
to your reality.
So whether other people want to project their relativity onto you to then compare it, that's up to them.
That's right.
But from your point of view, if you find that someone's going through a tough trot that you could easily walk through, that's relative to them. So is it more important to logically say to them, well, I could do this by going da-da-da-da-da, or is it you just honouring the fact that they're feeling something?
Yes.
Because you're bringing the compassion around the fact that this is relative to them.
Their lived
Just
experience rather than your logic.
Exactly.
I love that. What a great point. So true.
Thank you.
That one thing would be transformational. Yes. What a great point. Moving on. Law of Divine Oneness, anyone? Where everything and everyone is connected. This is so powerful. I actually want to start, if it's okay, I want to start with the distortion of this, the Law of Divine Oneness, because I see the distortion of this as, I guess, because in my line of work, I often come across people who really lack boundaries or lack energetic separation. They lack a discerning and obvious, clear-cut sense of self. And this is like an over-identification with collective pain. Ultimately, the distortion of Law of Divine Oneness looks like enmeshment. And when we have spiritual enmeshment, it kind of means, well, if they're up, then I have to be up too. If they're down, then I'm down. And when we don't have clarity around where we begin and where we end, then that's when people are sort of, they'll refer to themselves as, I'm an empath and I feel really deeply and all that sort of stuff. But it's not the feeling of it that is the red flag. It's over-identifying with that feeling as if it's yours. So we can have an awareness of the energy around us and remain sovereign, knowing that where we begin and end. But the spiritual enmeshment of it all is not what this law's about.
And I'm going to say I grapple with this one. Like this one's a tough one for me to fully, like everything else, we can talk about these laws. You talk about it and I'll just wing it, right? And it would just come from what I intuitively feel and how it's played out in my life. This one has always been that big one of sort of like, I acknowledge that this one is a challenge for me to grapple with. But it's not the fact that I need to understand it wholly and fully. And I do lean into it and I want to understand it and I want to have this sort of connection like I have with all the other ones, that it seems for my brain at this level, it can comprehend it a whole lot better than this one, where it says the law of oneness is we are all one. At some level, we are all one and we're all interconnected and we're all that. I absolutely can fully understand and fully relate to we are all connected, right? But this oneness, right? And this part is like, how does that work? And then you start to look at, okay, everything you see, your reality is a reflection of yourself because you are one, one is all. And it's like, well, hang on, how could all be one and one is all? And then I'm literally talking to another person on a podcast in another state, and that's me, but I'm me, and all of these things sort of flow around. And I'm also just open to the fact that maybe there's timing, maybe there's more learning, maybe there's just the ability to sink into it. And also maybe we won't fully comprehend what this actually means at its intended level. But to think about some of the guiding stars that I think about in all of this is that we're not in competition with each other, because I'm a very competitive guy, have been in the past. Don't mind losing, love winning. But this law of oneness gives me if I could just feel it without being able to intellectualize it, it means no one's left behind. No one's going to be taking away from me. We can all absolutely kill it in this lifetime and no one has to miss out. And so, but that's kind of the level that I'm at. Anything above that, I'm there going, it's hard to intellectualize, and especially for a guy like me who loves to have that, I just sort of surrender into the fact that there's more to learn, more to explore, but I feel it, but there's something that just can't click everything together to be able to fully talk about it like the rest of them.
Yeah, I get that. And I feel like probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I was at that point. And often I'll say to people, I ask everyone I have a consultation with, I'll say, what's your spiritual frame of reference? Like, do you believe that we're just a flesh meat suit and when we die, we go on the ground and that's it? Do you believe that there's something bigger out there? Do you have faith in any particular flavor? Like, what does that look like or mean for you? And I've never met anyone so far who has said, yeah, I think we're just a body and when our body dies, that's it. I haven't met anyone, although there's definitely going to be people out there who have that perspective. But where this really started to change for me was exploring what was out there, separate to what's in here, but feeling deeply connected. And when I was at that stage of my journey, did I ever talk to you about The Journey of Souls, the book?
Not really, not yet.
This book was the first book that completely, like above and beyond anything else I've ever done, seen, heard, read, changed my life, because it gave me a frame of reference of divine oneness. And that book opened up a whole entire new realm of awareness for me around the metaphysical and spiritual, if you want to use that word. And that was before I had even had any inkling or desire or thought to feel comfortable with the word God or, come back into any kind of faith in a formal way, right? So I was very much just searching. I was very much just like, I want to understand this. I want to understand, what is our mind? What is our soul? How is it different from this flesh meat suit? If our flesh meat suit dies, but we don't, and it's not over, then what is all this? And that book just gave me so much context and so much amazing awareness and understanding. Which then, when I overlaid with my understanding of God, of creator versus creation, and how we all fit together in that, because you hear in the Bible says we were made in the likeness and image of God, and that we're all connected, we are all one. And that book helped me have a frame of reference of how that happens and what that looks like. And oh my gosh, it blew my mind. Absolutely exploded my brain into a million pieces. And every person who I have recommended that book to has said that it changed their life. So I recommend that book. If you're listening to this and haven't read it, absolutely recommend that you read it. And when I look at this, our purpose, like Remind Institute's purpose, is to create ripple effects of healing and transformation that positively transforms lives and generations. And so this is the law of divine oneness, where if you heal, the ripple effect of your healing goes everywhere you go. Every interaction, every engagement. Like if you're a leader in a business, your energy and your values and who you are as a person and how you treat others, the way that you navigate emotions, the way that you handle stress, that ripples out and affects your entire team. If you're a parent, healing your own childhood wounds or your own triggers benefits not just you, it benefits your child, it benefits their children, and it flows down through generations, not just forward, but also back up the family tree. You're literally healing generations of wounding and trauma. That is phenomenal. Mental health. Yeah, how we treat ourselves influences how we show up in community, and self-compassion nurtures collective compassion. So if I can't have compassion for myself and gentleness and kindness towards myself, my capacity to have compassion and genuine, authentic kindness and understanding and love for others is drastically reduced. So I see this everywhere. Yeah. I would agree with you that this is probably the one where there's most questions for me, but I do feel that I feel connected to it, and I feel...
yeah, I resonate with that 100%. And so it's more of a feeling, it's more of a guiding light or a beacon, as opposed to something that, you know, we can sort of break down and go, well, it's that. And there's a whole lot of quantum stuff that we're understanding and diving into, which would probably explain a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, in essence, it's sort of like it's all connected. And that's what I can understand, because then you sort of bring in, you know, the law of attraction and the law of correspondence. You know, all of these laws, when you look at the law of oneness, it's almost like it's the foundation on which all these other ones actually get to play out.
Yeah. Well, because I imagine it like the big umbrella that sits over the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, right? And so it's absolutely, it's like everything, it's the connection in between all of this.
Yeah.
It's like the law of attraction wouldn't work if there wasn't oneness, that connection.
Absolutely.
The law of correspondence couldn't actually, you know, it would just be within, it wouldn't be without. Right? There has to be something connecting those two things. So I believe it at that level, but I'm also happy to sort of go, I don't need to fully understand it to feel it. Yeah. Which is, you know, an incredible thing. But what a way to end this series.
Yeah.
This wasn't the Law of One podcast episode. It was, it was 4 episodes, I think, in the end.
Yep.
That we, you know, covered that. So it's been a great little deep dive.
It's been fun. This was juicy. There's not been one conversation in the last 4 episodes or one like little rabbit hole we've gone down where I've gone, oh, that was boring, or it's been fun and juicy. So whoever asked us, hopefully we hit your very, very brief right. And this is actually what you wanted to hear from us. But if it wasn't, it's where we went, and we hope you like it anyway.
Let us know. There's plenty of spots there to comment.
Yep.
All right, everyone. It's been wonderful, Ash. It's been lovely as always. And till next week.
Yeah.
We'll catch you later.
See you then.
Bye-bye.